Now we start with US and Russia. US President Donald Trump has imposed sanctions on two largest Russian oil companies, Lukoil and Rosneft, in response to Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. The sanctions target the companies that fund Russia's military operations. Following the sanctions, the US Treasury Department has also expressed a willingness to take further measures, urging Moscow to immediately agree to a ceasefire and halt battle line assaults. Additionally, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has called on U.S. allies to join the sanctions and enforce them. Let's listen in to what he has said at the White House when asked about these sanctions.
We are going to either announce after the close this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning a substantial pickup in Russia's sanctions.
This development marks a shift in President Trump's policy, as he had previously avoided sanctioning Russia over the war, choosing instead to rely on trade measures. Trump's sanctions on Russia's oil companies Lukoil and Rosneft follow a similar move by the UK government, which sanctioned both companies last week. Now for this discussion, we welcomed retired Major General Sudhakarji. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you, Major General, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, again and again, we have talked about this, but how effective will this measure be, according to you, to push Russia to end the war?
Shobha, good morning. Thank you for inviting me for your morning show, and must compliment you for a relevant question.
Thank you.
The same issue has come up time and again. If you take your mind back between 2014 till 24th February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, total number of sanctions imposed on Russia was 2,000 plus. To be precise, it was around 2,623 were sanctions. Now, from 24th February 2022 till date, the number of sanctions on Russia have gone up to around 23,000. Some put together, they are touching a figure of 26,000 to 27,000 sanctions. Has any impact been felt? Has anybody been able to stop the war? If the primary aim is to stop the war, this mindless conflict, sanctions will have no bearing. Now look at the economy of Russia. Russia is posting a rate of growth higher than that of any country in the Europe and the USA, any leading economy. Look at the inflation rate. Look at the trade it is doing. So everything is actually going absolutely tickety-boo as far as Russia is concerned. And the conflict goes on merrily. It doesn't stop, doesn't show any signs of coming to a stoppage. So therefore, I would say that the Western powers or the alliances should do well if they go into the details, rather than flip-flopping. At times they are imposing sanctions, at times quietly they pull back the sanctions imposed. There is a case in point. In 2016, they had imposed a sanction on the aluminum factories of Russia. And soon they realized that the automobile industry in the leading economies were coming to a grinding halt. So they quietly, without making any noise, they lifted the embargo. So it has got no meaning. Therefore, all I would urge and suggest to the global powers who are involved in this particular issue is that let them think it over. If they don't have any time to apply themselves, let there be a core group. If United Nations cannot be trusted, let them form a core specialized group, pick up people from all relevant countries, make them a group, let them be the kind of an advisory role to Donald Trump and the people who are involved, France, Germany, etc., etc. Back to you, Asum.
And yes, building on that, Major General, talking about these coalitions, this week we see that in Europe a lot of talks are going on between these leaders for continuous support of Ukraine towards in this war. So how do you think that the coalition of the willing, that coalition or EU, and them thinking about putting more sanctions on Russia, how will this affect? Do you think they have come to any advancement or any feasible action for them to end the war?
For lack of correct expression, I would put it under the heading of paradox of reality. You see, this is what the paradox is. The ground situation demands something. If they actually intend to stop this war, then it requires identifying the problem correctly. Not the between the disease and the symptom, they have to narrow down to the problem, the disease. What is the disease? The disease is not the economy of Russia. Disease is actually related to the security apparatus or architecture which should come into existence between Europe and Russia. That they have not catered for. They dissolved the Warsaw Pact immediately after disintegration of USSR in 1991. But how come the NATO kept on expanding? Because there is a hidden agenda of NATO which nobody talks, no media is talking because it has not reached the public domain. And that hidden agenda is under the heading of the unilateral or the unitary power of the world. That is called the unipolar world. The unipolar world has got the objective from East Germany to Vladivostok. They have to expand their sphere of influence. This nobody is talking, and if I give this statement, then people will laugh at me. This is what the hidden agenda is, and sooner or later you will come to be convinced about what I am saying. This conflict will not end, it will continue, and sooner or later the situation will be so created that Russia will willy-nilly form part of the NATO, and NATO's sphere of influence will expand to include Vladivostok in the northeastern portion of Russia. That is the stretch. This is one way of isolating China, and this side, Afghanistan is going to be taken care of in the Middle East, and so as the East Asia and the Southeast Asia, if America has got some plan to actually put into some effect and action. If they don't have any plan, then Donald Trump's tenure will just fly past like this without realizing. 3.5 years is not a very long time. The new man will come, new leadership will come. He will understand as per his perspective. The deep state will have a last laugh and a field day in taking every president of USA, holding them to ransom. Look at what is happening in USA. 7 million people on the street. They are actually protesting against the Donald Trump style of leadership. They are saying the king is not required. They require somebody human who can connect with the people and meet the aspiration of the people. So this has never happened in the US. So gradually the deep state is actually making subtle and invisible effort to calibrate and coerce Donald Trump, bringing onto the lap and the sphere of their domain, so that Donald Trump does that thing which the deep state in America is desiring, or the deep state in Europe is desiring. This is what exactly going to happen. Back to us soon.
And Major General, that is so insightful. Thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to ask your opinion about, what do you think about Ukrainian President Zelensky? What's your insight? Or why do you think he's holding on to power like this? And his take is that the war is still going. It's not about, we can't have election right now. What's your take?
My take is that he has finished officially and legally. He has completed his mandate, and he should rightfully conduct the elections in Ukraine. He is not conducting elections. He is trying to erode the sanctity of the judiciary, because he himself is involved in many corruption cases. There is a fear in the mind that he may be put behind bars. He may go into the jail if he is tried by the court. So therefore, on one hand, there is no legal sanctity of the president, and the situation demands that there should be a proper leader. Now, who that leader is under the circumstances? Is there anybody better than Zelensky? Has anybody shown up his head and shown his capability of leadership under this wartime type of situation? None. There is nobody. There is an old saying that a known devil is better than unknown in jail. So the known devil is Zelensky. At least he is doing something, running around trying to save the country from disaster, regardless of the consequences. At least this man is actually up and about. So therefore, my take on the whole issue is that his sanctity doesn't exist. Even if there is an agreement between Russia and Ukraine, who is going to sign it? Perhaps the Speaker of the Parliament. They have a parliament, the speaker is the next, this is the man coming to my mind. He's got the next authority because they don't have a concept of vice president. I don't see anybody coming into the limelight. So who is that person going to sign the document which will be legally accepted for ratification? Because land captured by Russia has to be given up back to the Russia, and if land of the country, much against the sovereignty and the national interest of Ukraine, if it is going to be parted with, then nothing less than the parliament's ratification and validation is required. For that, Zelensky doesn't have any authority. For that, the people's mandate has to be taken in the parliament. If parliament says yes to achieve peace, then they go ahead. If they say no, then there is never going to be a yes. So at the moment, to sum up my response to your question, Zelensky has got no legal sanctity, no legal authority. His signing any document anywhere will have no meaning. You need to have the elections at the earliest, much at the cost of his own standing. And last point is there has to be a leader to make any meaningful discount or concessions or negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. Back to you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Major General Sudhakarji, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic now. In recent comments, President Donald Trump has revealed that his conversations with Russian President Vladimir Putin on ending the Russia-Ukraine war have been productive, but ultimately don't go anywhere. Let's listen into what he has said.
Well, I think that in terms of honesty, the only thing I can say is every time I speak with Vladimir, I have good conversations, and then they don't go anywhere. They just don't go anywhere. So in that sense, but no, look, he's fighting a war. He's in a war. That's two very competent sides, and that's the way war is. You never know with war, but I would say that it's time to make a deal.
Trump has also expressed hope that the tremendous sanctions imposed on Russia, particularly targeting its two largest oil companies, would be temporary. Let's listen in.
Question today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies, and we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled.
Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent has confirmed the sanctions, attributing them to Putin's refusal to end this senseless war. The U.S. has taken a firm stance aiming to cut off financial support to the Kremlin's military actions as the conflict continues. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that the United States still wants to meet with Russia. This comes after President Donald Trump canceled his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest. Rubio has made the comments at Joint Base Andrews following new U.S. sanctions on Russian oil companies. Let's listen into what Marco Rubio has said.
Well, we'd still like to meet with the Russians. We'd still want to, and I think I had a good call with Foreign Minister Lavrov, and we'll follow up on that. We're always going to be interested in engaging if there's an opportunity to achieve peace. I think the president has said repeatedly for a number of months now that at some point he will have to do something if we don't make progress on the peace deal. Today was the day he decided to do something.
The European Union has approved a 19th package of sanctions against Russia in response to its ongoing war in Ukraine. This package includes a ban on imports of Russian liquefied natural gas, which is a move aimed at further reducing the EU's reliance on Russian energy. Now, the LNG ban will be implemented in two stages. Short-term contracts will end after 6 months, while long-term contracts will be phased out by January 1st, 2027. In addition to the LNG ban, the new sanctions package also includes travel restrictions for Russian diplomats and adds 117 vessels from Russia's shadow fleet, mainly tankers, to a list that now totals 558. Moreover, the sanctions target banks in Kazakhstan and Belarus. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff has welcomed the sanctions package and stated that many of Kyiv's proposals had also been incorporated into it. Now we stay on this topic. Russian defense forces have claimed to have shot down 139